What is up? We have reached the NFL playoffs. Now, your standard fantasy leagues are probably all in hibernation right now, unless you play Dynasty, but fantasy still has some breath left in its lungs. You have DFS, obviously, playoff bowls, but we're going to focus on DFS today. This is Club Fantasy's DFS and Chill, back at full strength for the first time in a long time. I'm Ryan Weisse. I'm the host. Nobody's here to see me, but you are definitely here to see the triumphant return of my friend, Kyra Wiaterowski. Kyra, how are you?
Ryan, I'm great. Better than I am, or better than I was now that I'm COVID free, of course, and better than most because I do have a team in the playoffs. I know it might be at the very ass end there with my Eagles going up against the Bucs, but still exciting to be able to watch some football. Feel like you have some football left for you. But yeah, what's up, guys? It's playoff football time. I'm fired up to do some DFS this week. A lot of similar lineups, and we got to figure out how to get weird and different to take home some money. And I don't know about you, Brittany, but I'm definitely one weird broad. So we're going to get this thing done today. It's also great to have you back. I love having you on here. And I hope you don't become an ice fixture over there, because I know you said it gets so cold that your internet even freezes. So that's some pretty heavy stuff. So hopefully we don't have to deal with too much of that today.
So yeah, with us crazy. Again,
we were lucky.
No, Britt, you go.
I was going to say we were lucky.
Britt.
It didn't. Sorry, I think I'm on a little bit of a lag here. Yay, technical issues.
The internet is
cold. That has to be it. But yeah, we didn't get any ice. It's just snowing. It's nice and chill. So it's perfect for the show, right? DFS and Chill.
I was going to say DFS and Chill. You are already hitting branding right on the head. Well, yes, we have Britt Flinn back with us again. This is her second appearance with us. Britt, remind everybody after this delay where they can find your work.
You can find me over at fightingchancefantasy.com. And we are still doing lightning round fantasy. We're taking about a month break, but in February we'll be back with a bunch of new stuff that we've got in the works for off-season strategy things, draft, all kinds of cool stuff. So we will be back over at Lightning Round Fantasy next month.
Yeah, so make sure you guys are following Britt. It's at Britt_Flinn. Britt has 2 T's. Flynn has 2 N's. Always great work over there. Always great DFS, great everything. This show, if you are not familiar, is focusing on DFS, FanDuel, DraftKings main slate, and they broke the main slate up into 2 slates this week. So there are multiple chances for you to make $1 million this week. So I had the girls focus on Saturday and Sunday. We're going to start with Saturday. We're going to move to Sunday. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to everybody who's joining us after watching the DFS tailgate over on IBT Media. Our great friends over at IBT put out some wonderful advertisements showing both of our shows. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Quick reminder that we cannot see Twitter comments, so I'm not ignoring you. If you're watching us on Twitter, you should just jump over to YouTube and watch us there. The girls are going to focus on the DFS slates. If you ask playoff bowl questions, I will answer those. I've done a ton of research, so I look forward to answering those. But if you ask the right position when we're talking about it, we might even talk about that on the show. So we're going to pretty much focus on the same way we did things previously, which is we're going to give you good options and bad options. And we're going to start with quarterback. We're going to start with the Saturday slate. So that means we are just focusing on Raiders, Bengals, Patriots, Bills. And we're going to start with what we call chalk burn. This is the high dollar quarterback, high roster quarterback who might be able to hurt you. And the ladies agreed right off the bat. So I'm just going to let you guys go at Josh Allen and tell me why we should be avoiding him this week.
Yeah, so I feel bad to even pick on Josh Allen, really, because he's been so dominant all year, and he's a quarterback that could always break you the slate. And I mean, he still could, but there's a couple reasons that I don't really love Allen this week, despite how good he's been all season. And most of it has to do with the extremely cold weather temperatures. We think, oh, well, Buffalo is used to this. He's built for this, but, really nay, because Josh Allen just recently revealed that he has poor circulation in his feet. And I know that sounds like silly and stupid, but that does affect the player, affects how they play. And it really has, because when we look back at the games where Josh Allen has fared, where the temperature was 32 degrees or below, there's been there's been 5, and they range from 2018 to 2022. And most recently was this year against Atlanta. It was 25 degrees there, and it's significantly colder today. But he went 11 of 26 for 120 yards and no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He had a 17.0 passer rating. He was terrible. But just even in comparison, I'm not going to go through all 5 of those games for you. I just want to hit the most recent. He's had a 63.3% completion rate throughout the whole season, and he averages almost 260 yards a game. But when it comes to those cold weather games, his numbers drop to 50% completion rate. That's negative 13 points compared to what he's used to. And he averages only 166.6 yards per game. That's nearly almost 100 passing yards less than he's used to. Wow. So in these cold weather games, he's only had 6 passing touchdowns over the 5 games and 7 interceptions. They're just not good numbers. They're not studly numbers by Josh Allen's standard whatsoever. So, and let's not forget the obvious. Allen could obviously beat you with his legs, but, Allen hasn't given us a high ceiling in his cold weather games anyways. And if the Patriots are blitzing and giving him hell, they're a team that's always prepared for the playoffs. So I could see Josh Allen struggling and having a hard time this week. So for the expensive price, I think I'd rather a Joe Burrow or my cheaper option, which is Derek Carr. But yeah, Josh Allen, I don't see it being there for him for that price.
Britt, anything to add?
Yeah, he's the most expensive quarterback on the slate. And I mean, in these limited slates, you want somebody who's going to return value, and it's going to be super hard for him to return value. The Patriots are second against the quarterback on the season. They're 14th over the past 4 weeks, so they have slipped a little bit. But then, as Kyra said, we get this cold weather. It's supposed to be negative 10 degrees wind chill. I mean, that's so brutal. You can't feel the ball, and you can't get your mechanics right. The receivers can't catch the ball, even if you can throw it. And in the first game, where it was obviously, it's terrible. And obviously in the first game against New England, we did have the win factor, but he only went 15 for 30 for 145 yards and a touchdown. And I don't see him even coming close to value. Honestly, I think it's going to be a real run heavy game. And I can't.
So, Britt, I want you guys just to take a second, because I know it's something that we're going to talk about a lot on this show, but with 2 small slates, a 2-game slate and a 3-game slate, because we, of course, have the Monday night game, what does that change about how you're going to construct your lineups before we get into the quarterbacks you guys like? So, Britt, I'm going to start with you. What kind of piece of advice, and I know both of you, I think this week have tweeted out other people giving strategies, just a couple of quick pieces of advice when you're dealing with small lineup slates like this.
Yeah, so
it depends on if you're.
Sorry, I forgot you said Britt. I forgot.
No, sorry,
I'm leaning into the
still
delay,
on that
so I
lag
wanted her
too.
to go first. Exactly. Yep.
That's my bad.
No, you're good. I think you've got to look, and you've got to kind of eat some of the chalk, right? Because there's only so many players, and the values especially get so few and far between. So you have to decide what chalk you're going to eat and then what you're not. And then you have to differentiate between, your cash lineups and your GPP lineups as well. So for me, in a couple lineups, I'm actually fading Damian Harris and doing more of a Ramondre Stevenson, because I think that Harris is going to be the chalk. Whereas if I want to get really crazy, put in somebody like that, it's really tough to do a small slate like this, honestly. And there's not a great answer.
Yeah, it is hard, because a lot of these lineups are going to look the same. Like, a lot of us want to be playing Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, stuff like that, So guess what? A lot of people are going to. So you have to figure out where you could get different, where you could, be contrarian. I think it's a great idea, to put Ramondre Stevenson over Damian Harris, because he's also been dealing with an injury. So we see stuff like this happen all the time. It's super damn cold. He hurts himself again. He's out for the whole entire game. There goes Damian Harris. Everyone who has Ramondre Stevenson's gonna smash the slate, because not a lot of people are playing him. So, these little things are gonna happen, and I think it's a good idea. Like I said, we got to get weird. You got to start picking guys that aren't just the obvious, because they are going to be so chalky. So yeah, you do have to get weird. I even like not really so much for the Saturday slate, but for the Sunday slate, I like using a tight end in my flex, because I think that that's another way to get different, and a lot of people don't do that strategy, and I think there's a lot of great tight end plays. So you just have to get a little weird in some spots, just to see if I mean, you got to put up a bunch of lineups, you know. It's hard to roll with just one lineup for this and hope that it hits. You just have to plug away at a couple weird things.
So you both are obviously fading Josh Allen for fantasy purposes. And I looked ahead at your two favorite quarterbacks for this, and they're both in the other game. So before we jump into quarterbacks, I'm going to put you both on the spot. Patriots, Bills, who wins the game?
Patriots.
I think the Bills end up eking it out, but I think that it's going to be a lot closer than people are expecting.
I also see it being
a 24-21 game.
Yeah, I see it being low scoring, and that's why I don't really care to get pieces in that game, because I just don't think it's going to be a whole lot of action, especially compared to the Raiders and Bengals game, where I think that there could be a lot more going on. So in that case, I mean, I like the Patriots just because they've kind of had the Bills number over the years. And I think from what I've seen out of Josh Allen, he kind of, when he's under pressure, when he's in these big games, I think that he folds for some reason, you know, and he's that team. So it's important that he has a good game. And we're sitting here saying, I don't think he has a good game. So we'll see.
All right, let's talk about the quarterbacks you do like. Britt, you went ahead with who probably is going to be the favorite of Saturday, but you're saying there's times where you have to eat the chalk, and that's going to be with Joe Burrow, right?
Yeah, I think you almost have to. If you look at, excuse me, if you look at where they played earlier in the season, he didn't really have a huge impact. He was 20 for 29 with 148 yards and a touchdown, but the Raiders didn't have Darren Waller in that game. He's back. He seems to be full strength. So this game's going to be a lot closer than it was the first time they played. And I think it's going to be a lot bigger or a lot higher scoring game. So I'm looking for either one of these plays honestly could be good. If you're looking to be contrarian, Kyra's pick is a great choice as well. But I just think it's going to be a back and forth, and it's going to be wild.
Yeah, we got to see Smoking Joe in the playoffs. Bengals' first playoff experience in a while, so he really has to come and bring it and show them why they should be there. So I can definitely see Burrow doing well.
I say now, before you get to talk up Derek Carr, can we all just talk about how we were robbed of seeing Burrow versus Herbert in round one and how great of a game that would have been? But
it's sick. We get to see the very uninspired Ben Roethlisberger go out there and maybe put up 10 to 14 points. And it's just
with his whole press conference where he's like, "We don't have a chance."
I mean, could he sound any less? He's like, "I really just wanted to be done after this season, and here we are. So let's go, I guess."
You almost were just waiting for him to be like, how many damn last games do I need to have this season?
He's just waiting to retire, and it's just not ending for him, and he's just surprised that they got there.
All right, talk to us about Derek Carr.
But yeah, so anyways, my favorite play is going to be Derek Carr, and it's not to say, I think he has anywhere near the slate breaking ability as Joe Burrow, but just to be different, and no, Derek Carr doesn't. I'm fingers crossed that he does. But I just really love the way that my lineups looked when I filled them out, and I had Carr at the cheaper price too. I was really to fit in every single player that I wanted to by doing so. And on the road, Carr has been actually slanging the football. He averages 293 passing yards a game. My guess is that they're going to be playing this game from behind. And since he actually ranks 26 in pass DVOA, and just so people know, that's defense adjusted value over average for us simpletons out there who don't speak nerd. The matchup sets up really nicely for Carr, and you can save there and spend up at other positions fairly easily. If we expect this game to be, maybe not necessarily a shootout, but I expect it to be the highest over-under on the slate. So I want pieces in that. You want exposure to that. Everyone's taking Joe Burrow. Why not get different? Because you got to get different and pick Derek Carr.
I think that makes perfect sense. So we're going to run the show like normal, but also a lot of these are going to run into each other, especially for the Saturday slate. So the main takeaways is we're avoiding Josh Allen, but we're really kind of fading big portions of that Patriots game because of the fact that it's going to be low scoring, at least the passing game. But we like Derek Carr and Joe Burrow because it's going to be the higher scoring game. So I'm just going to slide into the running backs because you both have Josh Jacobs as someone you're looking to fade, but you both have Damian Harris as someone you're looking to play. So I'm just going to let you guys go at it for a few minutes, not necessarily go at it because you agree with each other, but talk to me, Britt, we'll start with you, why we're avoiding Jacobs and starting Harris. And I think the story kind of tells itself, but just talk to me about it.
Well, if you look at the game script of how they ran the game the first time, they were behind the entire game. They had to pass. I think Jacobs had 9 rushing attempts for only 37 yards. I mean, he was basically a non-factor. They didn't use him at all. The Bengals' run D has softened a little bit since that game, but I just don't see a run-heavy game script. I really do think it's going to be a shootout and a pass situation. And sure, Jacobs has been a little bit of a factor in the passing game, but when you have Renfrow and Waller, I don't think he's going to return value whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Josh Jacobs is we only have so many running backs to choose from on this slate that are viable to us in fantasy. He's actually been fairly consistent, and I don't hate Jacobs. It's just the slate's small, and I think that Mixon has the highest ceiling to save $200 on DraftKings. I like Damian Harris. His upside is just tremendous when he's completely crushed the Bills twice. It's hard to ignore that. And like I said with Carr, I expect Las Vegas to be trailing. His targets have come down with Jalen Richard back in the lineup. He just had a very pedestrian game last time, like we said, and there's just not much else to say about it. You could play Josh Jacobs, but when I'm sitting there looking at Joe Mixon and Damian Harris, I mean, hey, throw them in your flex. That's fine. But if I'm picking amongst those 3, I much prefer Mixon and Harris.
So let me just throw something at you guys, and I don't care who starts here. But so we're looking for differentiation, and I know you guys are going to hit the differentiation at wide receiver because it's a much deeper position. But with the way the Patriots have been using like Brandon Bolden and you brought up already Ramondre Stevenson, are we looking, because you're obviously, I don't think you're looking to start Samaje Perine in this game. You're clearly not starting Jalen Richard, and Zach Moss is persona non grata in Buffalo. It seems like those backup New England running backs, if you're looking to get different at running back, that's where you're going to make your play. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely go Brandon Bolden, but I mean, for the most part this season, he's stayed fairly consistently under 7 points a game. I know he went off last week and crushed it against Miami. You could get weird there. He's not my favorite play.
This is why I asked the questions, because I'm probably wrong, and you guys need to tell me I'm wrong.
No, it's you're not necessarily wrong at all, because I mean, hey, if Damian, like I said, but we're banking on an injury, I feel like, here to Damian Harris. I just think he's going to carry the load if he stays in that game. But if he doesn't, Brandon Bolden's going to win someone money. That's for sure. That's how these slates are going to go. That's how they're going to go. It's a shame. But he's not a terrible play, right?
I mean, I've actually got a couple lineups where I have Harris and Stevenson in, like Stevenson as a flex, and then have either, a Mixon or even a Singletary, depending on what wide receivers I choose. Because I don't think Belichick's going to go like the full-on Navy playbook like he did last time, but it's still going to be such a run-heavy game. I mean, both of these running backs are going to have viability, and Stevenson's pretty cheap too. So if you're looking to save, some salary, I honestly like them both. And I think that could be something that differentiates you from the chalk on this tiny slate.
And I think one thing that'll be interesting is Buffalo's defense, because of what they did early in the season and against bad running teams, they still show up as a good defense versus running backs. But Kyra, you hit it on the head. We've seen Damian Harris torch these guys before, and we've seen Jonathan Taylor go nuclear against this defense. So that could be, just by picking a New England running back, that could be differentiation enough because people might not remember what they did earlier this season.
Very true.
All right, guys. So you are avoiding Josh Jacobs mainly because we just don't expect that to be a heavily running game, especially for the Raiders. You are playing New England running backs, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, but we also like Joe Mixon. So a lot of chalk at running back, but we kind of knew that was going to happen, especially on a 2-game slate. This is where you're going to make your lineup different. And I'm going to let you guys, we've already kind of bad talked Josh Allen. You also don't like Josh Allen's wide receivers. So Britt, go ahead and start with Stephon Diggs. Kyra, I feel like I want you to explain Gabriel Davis a little bit better because I know why Britt's going to be down on Diggs, and that's not to say it's not a great pick. It is. I would think it would go well for Davis, but you're going to explain to me why not. So, Britt, Go ahead and start on Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, so, I mean, Diggs is matching up with J.C. Jackson. Jackson's second in interceptions. He has an 82.7 PFF grade. Diggs is pretty similar. With an 82.1 PFF grade. But again, it's the weather that does it for me. I don't think that Allen's going to have his mechanics down. That ball's going to be super hard to catch. Your fingers are going to be numb. Like, how are you going to feel to grasp that ball? And I mean, obviously the first time they played, the wind played a big factor, but I think again, this game is going to be a run kind of type of game, and he's just too expensive. I don't think he's going to return salary.
Yeah, especially catching laser beams from Josh Allen in 0-degree weather. It's going to hurt.
Yeah,
I know he's
thanks.
a professional athlete, but damn, let's be real. As a human, it's hard.
Yeah. So why no Gabe Davis?
So this is my thing with Gabriel Davis. I mean, I know you see, whoa, he's only $3,900. Seems like an easy choice. But there is 2 small problems here that I have with Gabriel Davis. One being the common theme here, the weather. Don't love it. Again, think it's going to be run heavy. And the second and the biggest factor is going to be Emmanuel Sanders being healthy. So Emmanuel Sanders comes back, and for whatever reason, even though Gabriel Davis has been playing great, but we've seen before when Emmanuel Sanders is back, it really limits Gabriel Davis's snap count. He's not out there at much. He really becomes super touchdown dependent when he's back in the lineup. So when Sanders is back, Davis's snap count is down, and he doesn't become the safe play that he has been recently when we've had Sanders out of the lineup. I don't know if they just trust the veteran more, and that's why we see more Emmanuel Sanders or something. But that's what happens, so it's just based on, I think his opportunity is much, much more limited.
Well, I think that's an excellent observation for people because you're going to have a lot of people jumping into DFS this week who don't normally play, and they probably have been riding high on Gabriel Davis in redraft leagues, but with no Manny Sands, it's a little bit different, especially in DFS where that might just not be the play there. But you guys have some great options at wide receiver, so I'm just going to let you ladies go at it. You're picking from basically the same 2 games. You just kind of went opposite on the 2 wide receivers, but they are definitely great plays at wide receiver. Go ahead and talk about them.
Yeah, so I don't know if yours are a little bit more obvious and mine are a little bit weird. So I don't know if you want to go first there, and I'll explain why mine are what they are.
There you go, Britt. So you'll start us off with a couple of studs.
Yeah, I think Hunter Renfrow almost has to be in your lineup just because he has built such a role in this offense. He's going to go up against Mike Hilton, who's allowed a 72% completion rate and 10 yards per reception. I mean, Renfrow is such an exceptional route runner. I think that he's just going to absolutely eat today. And then I also have T. Higgins, who's going to be going up against Casey Hayward. Hayward's allowed an 81.5 passer rating when he's targeted, and he's allowed 12.9 yards per reception. I also think a lot of people are going to be in on Jamar Chase just because of the past, the recency bias and stuff like that. And if you're wanting, we talked about contrarian plays and differentiating your lineup. I think Higgins is going to be stupidly low rostered and could be a great play to give you that edge.
Yeah, especially with Jamar Chase blowing up like he did for us in the fantasy playoffs, which if you watch the Grievances show, I was pissed off about Jamar Chase. I didn't know.
Wait,
so as for
doing
me,
everything a few weeks too late.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know what? I hate Jamar Chase, but people love him right now. He's a hot topic, so he's going to be super chalky, super popular. It's where everybody's going to want to go, and I think T. Higgins is a great way to come off of that. My favorite plays this week are still in that same game, it's going to be Zay Jones and Tyler Boyd. As for Zay Jones, the Raiders just freaking love Zay Jones. They've sung high praises of his work ethic. They say he's the first guy in there, last guy out. They just really, really love Zay Jones. And right now he's actually being used as their wide receiver 1. And I know Hunter Renfrow, and you have all great points. Well, Hunter Renfrow is $6,400 on DraftKings and Zay Jones is $4,000. So there's a really big difference there. But Zay Jones is seeing more targets and attention from Carr, and Renfrow has been saving his fantasy days with touchdowns lately. And I hate to be relying on that to keep happening at his high price point. So I think that Zay Jones is a great way to save money and get different, because Hunter Renfrow has been absolutely killing it, nowhere to lie. And you're not wrong for that whatsoever. But I just get nervous when people keep scoring a touchdown and make their fantasy points look good, just because if he doesn't get it, then it's terrible, whereas Zay Jones still is getting all those targets and he's getting those opportunities. As for Tyler Boyd, he's kind of the forgotten man in that offense because of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They just keep stealing the spotlight. But in 3 of his last 5 games, Boyd has put up 85 plus yards, and he's had 3 straight games with a touchdown. He's put up pretty safe numbers since actually like week 13. And I don't think Burrow is going to be super flashy. I think that Zach Taylor is going to have them play a little conservative and safe. So you might not see those big bombs over to Jamar Chase's way. Whereas Boyd, he can thrive in that short slot work. His matchup isn't necessarily ideal, but his ownership is going to be low, and he should play well enough to pay off at his price. And he's a way to get different.
There you go. So looking at wide receiver, you're avoiding pass catchers in the Patriots-Bills game. They specifically earmarked Gabriel Davis, Stephon Diggs. You were playing pass catchers in the Bengals game. However, Jamar Chase is chalky as chalk can be. Zay Jones, Tyler Boyd, Hunter Renfrow, T. Higgins, basically the ulterior options in that are all going to play well. We're going to jump over to tight end. I'm going to skip over Hunter Henry. We've beat that horse on that game. Buffalo's great against the tight end. The weather sucks. You both are willing to commit to Darren Waller very, very quickly, and I was not. Now, I'm not specifically talking about DFS, but like in any of my playoff bowl teams, I would not touch Darren Waller anywhere, but you both have him listed as a play today. So walk me through why we're so confident so quickly in Darren Waller.
Yeah, I think it really has a lot to do with it being the smaller slate and the other options that you're given opposed to him. Waller to me is pretty self-explanatory, just given his talent, and they're going to need him in this game. Last time he played them, he went over 100 yards for Cincinnati in week 11. So when you're comparing, you have Darren Waller, they're not all crazy. I mean, him and Dawson Knox are not crazy price difference on DraftKings, but so you've got Darren Waller, Dawson Knox, Hunter Henry, or CJ Uzomah as really the only people we're looking at here. And when I read that list and I think of how touchdown dependent the other 3 are and the opportunities that Darren Waller should get, he just seems like the safest play on the slate for me. So that's why I can't stop wanting to use Darren Waller on the slate. It's hard for me to say, nah, you know what? I know he gets way more opportunities than these other guys, but I'm going to take a chance. And I think, honestly, I know I made him the chalk burn was Hunter Henry, but he gets opportunities too, but he's just so touchdown dependent.
Yeah. Britt, same story with Waller.
Yeah, and the Bengals defense, I mean, has kind of really, really lost their mojo. The past 4 weeks, they're ranked 31st against the tight end position. And Waller is not just any ordinary tight end. He's super athletic. He's a former wide receiver who converted into a tight end. I mean, he's definitely going to get the looks, as we've said multiple times. We think that the Raiders are going to be playing from behind. Waller's going to smash today. Like, I can't. This is an instance of eat the chalk.
All right. I see. So, like I said, I saw 2 catches on 9 targets last week. Like, I just wasn't really high on him. So you're likely avoiding Hunter Henry. You're likely avoiding Dawson Knox for the same reasons. Ugly passing game, touchdown dependent. But I will say, small slate, you're looking for targets. Waller's the only one getting any targets. Kyra says start the Bengals. Britt says start the Bills. We're just going to end this segment with the same way I kind of did in the middle there. Do the Raiders have a chance in this game? Would either one of you say they have a chance?
I mean, I guess on any given Saturday that anyone
don't hit me with cliche bullshit. Who's going to win this game?
I genuinely think that the Bengals are going to win this game. The Raiders have been doing great, but in comparison, when we're comparing teams here, I think the Bengals just have too much firepower, and the Raiders aren't going to be able to overcome it.
Britt.
Yeah, their Bengals are such a balanced team, and on both ends. I think even if they get ahead, Mixon is going to destroy because the Raiders can't really stop a running back. So, it's a double-edged sword here because they're just the better, more balanced team. So, Bengals show.
There you go. So Bengals
I think
for
a
sure.
lot of people are rooting for the Bengals too. I mean, when you haven't made the playoffs in so long and you've just been gloom and doom for so long, you like to see those guys come out and win some games. Not that the Raiders have been killing it either, but I mean, really, the Bengals, at least the Raiders have had success as a franchise at points.
In my playoff bowl teams, there are two teams that cannot win today, and one is the Raiders because I picked all defense for the playoff bowl because I just don't expect them to do well. And Kyra, I'm sorry to say, the other is the Eagles. I went very heavily on Tampa Bay offense.
Yeah,
so let's jump to Sunday.
You eat your words on that.
Hey, you know what? I hope I do as well. So we're going to jump to Sunday. Sunday is Eagles, Buccaneers, 49ers, Cowboys, Steelers, Chiefs. We're going to have fun with this. We're going to start with quarterback. You both have Patrick Mahomes. So Britt, talk to me about Patrick Mahomes, but then Kyra, you also put Tom Brady here, which is fun. So Britt, start with Mahomes. Kyra, bring me home with Brady.
Let's do it.
I just think, it's the Steelers, right? It's a 12.5-point spread, which is kind of outrageous in any given Sunday situation, but especially in a playoff matchup situation. I do not think that Mahomes is going to have to throw. I think that it's going to be a Darrell Williams and McKinnon style game because Pittsburgh is also pretty atrocious against the run. They're going to get up fast, and then they're just going to run the clock out. It's not that I think that Mahomes is going to have a bad game, but he's not going to have that high volume shootout that he would normally. And he's expensive. I'm trying to pay up for somebody expensive with a 12.5-point spread.
Well, especially when you've been having to choose from 4 quarterbacks in the previous slate. Now you have 6, and it's like, I'm not paying up for Patrick Mahomes. Are you crazy?
No, which sounds insane because Mahomes is the guy, right? But I just don't think the game script is going to lend itself to his success.
Yeah. The fun thing about the small slates is, they're, especially with the quarterbacks, other than Saturday's quarterbacks, is the Sunday quarterbacks. There's all really good fantasy quarterbacks on there. So you could definitely pay down and still get the same production. So I think that's why, those really expensive guys don't appeal as much.
Yeah, I actually love Jalen Hurts this week, who I know we're going to talk about. But talk to me about why we're avoiding Brady. And I know the Eagles defense has been good against fantasy quarterbacks. So
yeah, I know that Tom Brady is Brittany's favorite play, so I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate to that. And while some of this might be wishful thinking, but since she did take Mahomes, I figure what the heck, I much rather just pay for those cheaper options than those guys that are top tier on the slate, especially Prescott, Hurts. Shit, even dare me say Jimmy G, but let's face it, Evans and Gronk with checks down to Fournette are Brady's only real options out there on his offense. So let's theoretically say Darius Slay, who's been absolutely dominant this year, locks down Mike Evans like he did when they faced off in week 6. That leaves only 2 options for Brady to really get it done. And realistically speaking, this could be a Fournette game, given how bad Philadelphia has been against opposing running backs. I could see him really just carrying this game, him and Gronk, especially up the middle. That's Brady's favorite spot. And the Eagles are very weak in the middle. So yeah, I hope Brady gets the ick when he sees Philly and Hurts puts a hurting on him like Nick Foles did. But I'm not really sure. Plus, the weather is actually going to be really rainy. It's supposed to be like 95% rain, could be windy. So you might as well lean on the run with Leonard Fournette.
There you go. Britt, why do you like Brady?
See, I like Brady because Gronk is going to be one of the main weapons. Between Gronk and Cameron Brate, the Eagles are just really, really inept at trying to cover a tight end. It sucks. I know. I saw the eye roll.
No, the Arizona Cardinals of Christmas past. When you just every week, whoever it was, didn't matter who it was, they scored a touchdown against the tight end, scored a touchdown against the Cardinals. We are that now this year as the Eagles. That's why we love Gronk.
The Eagles. Yeah, and the Eagles have allowed or have given up 14 touchdowns to the tight end position on the season. That's almost won every single game. Like,
See?
it's crazy. And Gronk has kind of one of the elite options who has come up this season, and without, Godwin, AB, with Evans getting shut down, I think it's going to be a mixture of Gronk and Cameron Brate. And that kind of helps, when the weather is rainy, the short little check down passes and things like that. So I think they're going to get it done.
Yeah, I mean,
they are favorited, so yeah. I get why Brady appeals for sure. I can see it being more. I'm not saying that we win that game. I'm just saying that Leonard Fournette could take it over.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes a ton of sense. So Kyra, let's talk about the quarterbacks you do like, one of which is not even a mild surprise.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be super chalky, which is Dak Prescott. The one that's I'm joking here. I know the one that's not a surprise is Jalen Hurts for me. So I'll start out with Dak, and I'll get to my guy after, so I could talk forever. But love Dak on this slate. This matchup projects to be the highest over under, and Dallas has a 26.8 team implied total. And while San Francisco has been pretty kick ass versus the run, they're pretty decimated at corner and have been susceptible against the pass. And I know Dak himself has been up and down this year, but he's actually played much better at home this season. And if he wants to shut up all of his critics that, they just can never win these playoff games, then he's going to have to show out in Jerry's world, where he's averaged actually nearly 3 touchdowns a game. He just played much better at home. It projects to be a Dak game, and I don't see it being run heavy whatsoever. And if it is, Zeke has been lackluster. I know he reached his 1,000-yard mark, but he hasn't been impressive. This is going to have to be Dak, and you definitely want exposure to this matchup and the passing game one way or another. So I think Dak is a great option to choose and stack with a lot of his weapons out there. As for Jalen Hurts, I swear this isn't just me being a homer pick, and it's my one last chance to mention Jalen on my podcast, wink, wink. But Hurts is just too cheap here with his upside, and he's had several QB1 performances this season. I think he's up there. He's tied with someone else. I can't remember who it is, but
I thought he was one, but you might be right.
He was, and then right at the end there, someone else pulled up tough and matched up with him. But in a game with rainy, shitty weather, give me the quarterback rushing leader this season. Or you could paint a different narrative where Jalen, regardless, is going to run and he's going to be behind, so he's forced to throw the ball and make big plays, which we almost want that, because that's when he really maximizes his fantasy value. He's another player who needs to silence his critics going into next year. This is Hurts' last chance to really solidify being the guy here for Philadelphia. Lots of pressure, and they say in Philly that hungry dogs run faster. I always like Hurts at a value in DFS, so how can I not? It's got to be Jalen Hurts this week.
There you go. All right, guys. So we are avoiding. Oh, please go.
I just had one thing where Tampa Bay has had a lot of success defending the run. Their pass defense is not great. And so, you've got those weapons like Devonta Smith. I think it's a very exploitable matchup for Hurts. So I can totally see him going off.
Yeah. And last time they played, he didn't do too bad. He put up 26 fantasy points that day. So, and it's weird. Jalen Hurts, regardless of the matchup versus the run, he's always played well. He kills New Orleans every time, and they're really great against the run. So I think he's just he's generally a hard player to contain with having that skill set. So I know they're going to want to try to force him to throw, and that's all right for fantasy. That's all right.
Well, and you guys both talked about how bad Philly is against the tight end, but Tampa Bay also bad against the tight end, which plays out to a Dallas Goedert game, which could then lend itself to a Jalen Hurts game. So we're starting Hurts. We're starting Dak. We are avoiding Patrick Mahomes, and then there's some debate on Tom Brady. And one of the best pieces of advice that constantly comes up on this show is tell yourself a story about how you believe the game is going to go. So if you believe it's going to be a running game, you're going to fade Brady. If you believe it's going to be a Gronk game, you're not going to fade Brady. Plain and simple. So we're going to jump over to running back. You both unsurprisingly hate Ezekiel Elliott, who has just been a disappointment, putting it plain and simple.
And he's still great guy.
And of course, he's a Cowboy, so Kyra was never going to like him. So.
Hey, I like a lot of Cowboys in this game. I try not to be.
And this was hard for me to write.
I bet.
It was, I was looking through this slate, and I'm like, honestly, Zeke is the only one that I really think could disappoint. I think he's the second I'm not sure about the Sunday slate. I looked at the whole 6-game slate, but he's either the most expensive quarterback or running back, or second. And since
second
week 6,
DraftKings.
I don't think, yeah. And since week 6, he's only averaged like 45 rushing yards a game. Since week 6. It's not good. He's not getting a lot of passing work either. He's been kind of utilized more as a pass protection blocker rather than a running back. And it's really disappointing, and it hurts my heart to see because I love Zeke, but I'm definitely not paying up for him this week.
Maybe it's because, I think that a lot of what's happening is what we saw in week 1. If we could think that far back to Tampa Bay when everyone thought that Zeke was just absolutely dusted, and he pass blocked for them the whole game. And that's when we saw Tony Pollard just go off, and everyone's like, Tony Pollard should be playing over Zeke. They are two different style running backs as far as that goes. I don't think Tony Pollard could block nearly as well as Zeke, but maybe that's what's happening is, maybe Zeke right now isn't 100%. He's not very healthy. They have him pass blocking instead of playing his traditional role. And we have Tony Pollard coming back this week. He's healthy. He's ready to play. So, yeah, it's really just a lot of odds going up against Zeke.
And it doesn't help matters much that San Fran is actually pretty damn good against the run, and Dallas is probably going to throw a lot in this game.
That is a big deal, too, is that they're much better against the run than they are versus the pass. So I can see that's why I want it to be a Dak day.
There you go.
Expect it to.
Kudos to both of you for being just the most trusting people, because you both are ready to throw Leonard Fournette back into your lineup too. And hamstring injuries terrify me, but apparently you two are just cool with it.
Yeah, I think it's really just because the process of elimination here, where there's no Ronald Jones. I guess you could maybe take a shot on Keyshawn Vaughn if you're willing to trust him to. One person we didn't mention that I wish I did was Elijah Mitchell. I think I would have liked to have mentioned him in this.
We're still in running backs. We can
and we're still there. I don't have too much. I don't have any notes. Why?
Oh, okay.
I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know why neither of us mentioned Elijah Mitchell, he's been getting a ton of opportunities every week. He's 20 plus rushing attempts. So in a game that projects to be a high over under, I think that it wouldn't be a bad idea to get Elijah Mitchell in there if you are afraid of playoff Lenny. But he's back. He's going to need to be called upon with the limited passing options in Tampa. Plus, we've said it, Philly sucks against running backs, and they gave up the second most receptions to opposing running backs this year. The Bucs are super heavy favorites, and we like a running back on a heavily favored team. And again, that weather theme, Fournette could really benefit. And being the second most worst team against opposing running backs with the receptions, it's kind of Fournette's bread and butter in this game with the limited passing options. So I guess that's why I have to mention him. I like him. If he stays healthy and he stays in this game, then he could really do damage. Another guy that I liked was Darrell Williams. I love him badly, especially now that there is no CH in this game. He's dominated without CH in the lineup, putting up solid numbers. He's going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have been also terrible against opposing running backs. They're a team we've picked on. And Kansas City is another team that's going to be even more heavily favorited in this matchup against a very uninspired Ben Roethlisberger, like I said. So I can see Darrell Williams being able to take over this game.
Britt, you trust them hammies on Lenny?
Yeah, and I think
hamstring injuries suck.
He practiced. They do, and soft tissue injuries, can linger, and it is very iffy. But business. I think it is risky. But isn't every play in DFS risky, right?
Anything could happen.
I think, yeah, and I'm going for higher upside here. And I think Fournette has the most upside. And I think that he could be a contrarian play because a lot of people are off of him because of that hamstring issue. So, depending on his rostership percentage, he could kind of be a slate breaker. So, but I do like Darrell Williams too, since they announced that CEH was out too. So either one of these plays are good in my book.
So I'm going to throw two quick things out. I just did a quick rundown on Elijah Mitchell since Kyra didn't have time to take notes. 118 carries over his last 5 games, which is
insane. They give him so much opportunity.
But I do have
a good bet to get a touchdown, I would think.
I have a bone to pick here because there's a player neither one of you mentioned that I was a little shocked by because notoriously the run defense is bad and he's one of their only options. Nobody's on Naji Harris. Does he just cost too much?
I think it's because he is so highly priced, and Pittsburgh they just don't put up a ton of points. I mean, over their last couple of games, 13, 14, 10, 13. Like, it's just the upside is just so low. And I know that Najee's volume is king. That's where he gets his points. So I guess it's really, he's 6,600. I could save $1,000, get Leonard Fournette. I could save a real lot for 5,200 and get Darrell Williams. Hell, you know what? I could even get ballsy and say, let's play Miles Sanders in this game, who he's going to get a ton of rushing opportunities. The Eagles are a run first team. This game, the weather is absolutely terrible. I know he hasn't got in the end zone, so he's a candidate for those touchdown regression things, you know what I mean? So if you want to get different, I guess I don't hate Miles Sanders. I know a lot of people are going to cringe at listening to me say that, but I mean, he's back. They're hungry. He's super cheap. Super cheap. He's the cheapest one out of everyone I named.
Britt, is that your same thought on Naji?
Yeah, I kind of think, when we thought that it was Ben's last game, in Pittsburgh, that they just threw. And of course, yeah, right. I mean, he very much did. Thought it was it. And Naji had that, last little breakaway run, but up until that point, he wasn't doing that great. And especially at his price point, I'm just not with this game script, with them being 12.5-point underdogs. I don't think that game script is going to go the way that it benefits Naji. So
anytime I expect them to get blown out in this game. And anytime they have, Naji hasn't necessarily killed it.
That's fair.
That being so I guess, he's obviously in line to get a bunch of touches. He always is. That's his game. But just don't love him, especially being the highest price running back.
Yeah, I don't think we need to beat a dead horse on Mike Evans. Obviously, Darius Slay has looked good. He shut Mike Evans down once already, but you guys have so many great options at wide receiver. Britt, I'm going to start with you because you played by the rules and put one on here, and then there's Kyra, but we'll get to that in a second. So talk up CeeDee Lamb.
Of course.
So we've kind of talked about this and touched on this with Zeke and San Francisco's run defense. How we think that it's going to be a heavy passing game. San Francisco's secondary is completely decimated. I mean, it is just, they cannot stop the pass. Conversely, over the past 4 weeks, they're literally the best against running backs. So I think if Dallas has any chance going into this game, that it's going to be a heavy pass game. Lamb has kind of come on as one of the favorites for Dak Prescott, especially with obviously last week we had Cedric Wilson, but that was kind of a little bit of a different situation because they were just playing backups and whatever. I think that Lamb is going to line up in a combination of the slot and outside and kind of keep these defenders off of him and kind of make it hard to game plan around him. And I don't know, maybe it's just a gut feeling, but I think he's just going to go off. I just have a gut feeling against it.
As an enormous CeeDee Lamb fan, I am all for him just torching the San Francisco 49ers today. So,
yes, I'm a big Lamb fan myself, despite being the Eagles diehard that I am. I love CeeDee Lamb, and I can see him having a huge game as well. I think all these Dallas pass catchers are in play. Literally all of them.
As I say, you went as far to throw Ced Wilson on your list.
So. Yeah, I had to get weird. I told you we're gonna get weird
right.
today. We're getting weird. I'll start out though with probably the most obvious one is going to be Deebo Samuel. I mean, why should you play Deebo? It shouldn't take much convincing. The guy is an absolute force. He is the 49ers offense. He's never put up a game this season under double digits, and he's a Swiss Army knife. He's going to be utilized heavily in this highest over-under game of the playoffs. So, like I said, we want exposure to the players in this game, and going heavy on Dallas pass catchers and bringing it back with someone like Deebo sounds like a pretty good idea to me. Despite Dallas's ability to create turnovers on defense, they're a little, I don't want to sit here and say that their defense is underrated because creating those turnovers is a big deal, but they still do give up passing yards.
Well, I was going to say the casual fan probably sees Trevon Diggs and knows what he did this year, but he also gave up the most passing yards.
Passing yards in coverage. So I think, I don't know if it's because he's looking for all those interceptions, and he gets blown back, but I know Debo is expensive, but we know why that is. He's going to have a good game. He's their wide receiver 1, RB1, and apparently last week he was QB1. He was throwing touchdowns. He's just that guy. I mean, he's so good. How do you not play Debo in a great matchup? It's a great game. Another guy I like, and I think he's more of just like a safe play for me. I don't think he's necessarily a slate breaker, and I don't know that a lot of people are even going to play him, but it's Deontay Johnson. He's a safe volume play. And as uninspired as Ben sounded in his interview for this game, he's going to need to be passing the ball a lot. Johnson is a damn near lock for double-digit targets on any given weekend. And among all the playoff defenses, the Chiefs actually give up the most passing yards, so it's just a safe, cushiony spot for Johnson, and he's not super highly priced. So now I guess we'll get weird, and I'm going to say that one of my favorite picks is Cedric Wilson. I feel like I have to list a cheap option to help you guys get different on these slates. And Cedric Wilson is my favorite cheap option here. He's filled in actually pretty nicely since Michael Gallup's unfortunate exit with his, I think, what do you have, an ACL tear or something? Yeah. So he's out for the season. He's had 6 targets each of the last 2 weeks and 3 touchdowns over that span as well. So Wilson has flashed a couple times when given his opportunity, and he can easily pay off at his price point. Love all those Cowboys receiving options, so I'm not going to limit that to any of them. Cedric Wilson could have himself a good game on a beat-up 49er secondary.
Makes a lot of sense. We're avoiding...
Only $4,300 too.
There you go. I say we're avoiding Mike Evans. We're playing Dallas pass catchers. They didn't mention Amari Cooper, but I'm sure we like Amari Cooper as well.
I do.
But we're also throwing in Debo Samuel, Deontay Johnson. I'm not going to even spend a ton of time on tight end. You're playing Gronk. You're playing Dallas Goedert. They're the best 2 tight ends on the slate. However, Britt, you had the balls to throw Travis Kelsey on this list. So walk me through why Travis Kelsey is a chalk burn this week.
I did. It's you got to be different. I feel like, he's consensus tight end 1, but we've touched on this throughout the show. We think that Kansas City's going to get up so much that it's going to become a run heavy game. And he's the most expensive tight end on the slate. I don't think that there's any way that he returns value. I honestly don't. And I think, we've talked about this as well. If you want to differentiate yourself, you've got to kind of steer away from the chalk sometimes. And I think Kelsey's going to be chalk, and he's going to disappoint a lot of people.
Yeah, him and Gronk are actually nearly priced the same.
I was just going to say, with options like Gronk and Goddard, it makes a lot of sense because we've seen games where Kelsey will get ignored and they'll lean Tyreek Hill instead. So,
yeah, no, for sure. I get it. Yep. Yeah, I do. I want to say I do like Goddard. Just because I don't know if people realize how good he's actually been as of recently. Ever since Zach Ertz left town, Goddard leads the Eagles in targets, and he operates like a wide receiver 1, and he's cheap on both of those platforms. And I know that Gronk. I haven't really looked at the ownership projections today, but I think Gronk is going to be stupid chalky in this game, So if you want to get different, Goddard's a good way to do that, especially if you believe that the Eagles are going to be playing from behind. A lot of that's going to go to Goddard then in that case.
Makes a lot of sense. So we're avoiding Travis Kelsey. We're playing Gronk and Goddard. Oh, my apologies. I have an alarm set on my phone.
I was going to touch on one more thing with
Please.
Goddard. So he's led the Eagles in target share percentage at 28% of the team's targets, receptions, and receiving yards. But the only other tight ends who had a larger target share on the season are your big 3 of Kelsey, Waller, and Kittle. Goddard is a target share monster. And going up against this matchup, sure, Devin White, is a badass, but he's not what he was last season. I don't think that he's unbeatable. Yeah,
it's one of the weak spots, and Tampa's defense doesn't have many weak spots, but they've given it up to the tight end a couple times. So if you're gonna find a soft spot there, tight end could be it. Also, Goddard, definitely a breakout candidate for next year's. I love
words out of my mouth, Kyra.
Yeah.
What great advice for next season, because a
Mhm.
full season of Goddard without Ertz, the target share that Britt just brought up, it's going to be nuts for Dallas Goddard next year. So
Philly likes their tight ends. They're up there. That's why Zach Ertz was who he was for years for us for fantasy football, and Goddard could follow right in those same footsteps.
There you go. And we're playing the Chiefs defense against the Steelers. Makes perfect sense. We're playing the Cowboys defense against the Niners. Makes perfect sense. Cowboys defense with that touchdown and turnover upside. And Britt, it's the Cowboys defense. So before we jump into outros, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to put you guys on the spot. Let's start. Buccaneers, Eagles. Who's going to win?
No comment. I can't jinx anything. I can't say anything. I'll say I just hope that I see the Eagles play a good game and give me something to look forward to regardless. So
I like it.
I'd like to see some good Jalen Hurts football, please.
Yeah, I think it'll be closer than the spread suggests. I think the Buccaneers end up coming out on top, but it's going to be a closer game than people think.
All right, then, Britt, I'm going to flip and put you back on the spot. Cowboys 49ers. Are you abstaining as well?
I don't want to jinx it either.
It's hard. I hate
I'm
to bet on
hoping
my
that
own team.
Dallas wins.
All
I
right.
know a lot of people have picked the 49ers to upset the Cowboys, and that's like the number one upset pick of the week. But I think that there are just a ton of Cowboys haters out there that want that to be the upset.
See, that makes sense. My only upset this week, and I understand there's going to be upsets, at least from these 5 games, is the Patriots over the Bills. I think that one makes the most sense out of these 5 games.
Too.
So,
me too. Otherwise, I think it is. I will admit, I think it is pretty self-explanatory. And I will say, I won't be surprised if the Cowboys win this game because they do play so much better at home. That gives them such a big advantage. If we're going position by position, I think for the most part, Dallas wins that. So I think Dallas could pull it off.
All right. And then my final question, is it Ben Roethlisberger's final game? Finally.
Dude, if they are the upset of the week, I will be shook. I mean, but
everybody's brains will explode.
Seriously, I would be very, very shocked at that, especially with how hot Kansas City has been, but this is how Vegas makes their money sometimes. So
exactly.
Maybe seen crazier things happen, I guess.
I mean, I don't know that we have seen if the Steelers who
it might be the craziest
snuck in and then they beat the Chiefs. That's not even
all my Steelers friends because I am in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So there's lots of Steelers people. They said that Ben Roethlisberger just said that because they want them to think that they're not going into this expecting to win the game, and this is all like Jedi mind tricking kind of a thing. But I think he was dead serious. I wouldn't be surprised.
Deontay Johnson is going the other way with
absolutely.
it. He's like, don't join the bandwagon after we win, sort of thing. So
he said that, and Naji, he had like a tweet and delete kind of thing. And I think he said something like, he's like, what the fuck, man? Like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I can't remember what he said, but it was something along those lines where he was just like, why the hell did he say that?
Yeah, the rookie wasn't ready for the 19-year veteran to just throw him under the bus like that.
He sure wasn't.
Guys, it was an amazing show. I expected nothing less with the two of you. Britt, one more time, tell everybody where they can find your work.
Well, you can find me on fightingchancefantasy.com, the Lightning Round podcast, which we are starting back up in February with a bunch of postseason content and fun stuff. And then on Twitter at Britt_Flinn. And yeah, that's it.
Kyra, parting words for the people.
Yeah, I guess my final thoughts are to stay warm, everybody who's freezing, aka me, Brittany, Ryan, Josh Allen's feet, probably Mac Jones later. It's cold out there. If you're down in Florida, like most of the people on our club fantasy football, you have no idea how lucky you are.
Yeah.
I'm super jealous. You don't even know the pain we go through every day. I hope the Eagles somehow pull off an epic upset versus the GOAT, and everyone has a wonderful winning-filled weekend. Our viewers, you're always truly the best, and I hope you all get rich.
There you go. We'll be back next week, probably same time, same place. I'll get with Kyra. We'll figure it out. I'm still working on a guest. I have some irons in the fire. Check the website. We're going to have Dynasty content, draft content coming out. Make sure you hit sub on the YouTube channel. We're giving away free merch, autograph merch every time we hit subscriber milestones. This week, we're going to be focusing on accountability on our Wednesday show. Our Wednesday show runs all year long. So we're going to have Chris Molina back. We're going to talk about what we were right about and what we were wrong about with quarterbacks from last year. As I mentioned at the top of the show, make sure you're following our partners over at IBT Media. They do DFS shows. Our shows go great with one another, and I'm pretty sure they'll be on just before us again next week because everybody's kind of following the same schedule because of the playoffs. Hopefully you guys got all of that. I do want to show off one very cool thing.
Oh, I saw it.
My birthday was
I was
this
jealous
week.
of this. I liked this a lot.
And so I have a bunch of little Funko Pops, Harry Potter, Lando Calrissian, Baby Yoda. My wife got me a Funko of me with my mustache and a Harry Potter shirt on.
And it
so
literally looks like you. It's amazing.
she even made the
That's
sideburns
adorable.
gray because I'm an old man. So
Wow.
so
Can't get
yes.
much more spot on than that. I love it.
Exactly. And so I joked that she got me a Funko Pop of my favorite fantasy football analyst, me. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Britt, Kyra, wonderful job as always. Britt will certainly be in touch in the offseason. Good luck this week, everyone. Enjoy that DFS. Enjoy those playoff bowls. And I hope your teams win.